Hey everybody, welcome into a Flyers game preview. I'm Kevin Durso. Tonight, the Flyers take on the Pittsburgh Penguins for the second time in the young season. Before getting started, this video is brought to you as part of Flyers coverage on sportstalkphilly.com and the YWT podcast. Get all of your Flyers coverage at sportstalkphilly.com. Follow me on Twitter at Kevin_Durso and find more coverage from me over at 973ESPN.com. And be sure to listen and subscribe to the YWT podcast. We've got a new episode coming for you this weekend where we'll actually get to talk about some real games that have happened. Wednesday's game, tonight's game. We can't wait to do that. Let's get started with a quick look back at the 6-3 Flyers win over the Penguins on Wednesday night. Great game for the Flyers overall. They do come out and they get that first win of the season. Great way to start the season. Early on, it didn't feel like it was the best start for them. They kind of came out of the gate a little slow. They weren't off to the best start. They gave up the first goal of the game, but as games go on, this team has gotten better over time, and they find a way to score more over time, I think, is another thing too. They start to build up more as the game goes on, and it really actually took the power play to get things going. You know, it's not something that we're typically used to seeing from the power play. You know, that was one of the areas of improvement that everybody wanted to see, and right away, Joel Farabee's on the left side of that power play. You got Erik Gustafsson at the back end, and Gustafsson's able to throw a couple shots on goal, and it sets things up for a couple of deflections. James Van Riemsdyk left alone in his office. He's able to get his stick on it, and Nolan Patrick getting one that hits off of him. It's not the highlight reel goal that you want to see, or maybe that you expected to see from Nolan Patrick. And, you know, when he got that first goal back in action, you know, you wanted to see it be a decisive one, kind of like in the scrimmage on Sunday. You know, it's there. You know it goes off of his stick. It wasn't quite like that, but that's okay. You know, they don't ask how, they ask how many, right? And Nolan Patrick's on the board for the first time in nearly 2 years, and that's incredible for him. It's quite a story for him to come out and in that first game back, be on the score sheet, be involved right away, and look like a guy who we can expect to be a contributor to this team going forward as long as he's able to stay on the ice. I think that's a huge part of it. What more can you say about the rest of the group too? You get, as the game goes on, you know, Joel Farabee's involved on the power play, and that's a great thing for him to be involved on the power play like that. But then how about other guys as well? You know what I mean? Like other guys, Erik Gustafsson getting involved right away. First game, new guy, completely new to the team. This is not like Oscar Lindblom coming back or Nolan Patrick coming back and having some familiarity with Alain Vigneault or having some familiarity with teammates that they play with. This is a guy who's fresh to the system, fresh to the lineup, doesn't really know anybody as compared to these other guys who were here last year and who have been here for years. And he comes out and looks like he hasn't missed a beat either, and he looks like he's fitting right in as part of this team. And that's not to say that he doesn't have his moments defensively. Clearly, you know, he had a turnover in the neutral zone that led to the third goal for Pittsburgh that tied the game in the third. But he contributes on the offensive side, and I think that you can take the defensive liability side of it to an extent if he's giving you production at the other end. And the Flyers, especially getting that goal late in the first period, I think that was a game changer for the Flyers. Late goals are backbreakers for teams. They score with 7.8 seconds left in that first period, and it changes the way that the game looks. You know, it went from being 1-0 Pittsburgh to 2-1 Flyers in a matter of 5 minutes, and that's a big shift in momentum for the Flyers. Now, even though they gave that back, Carter Hart with the turnover to Sidney Crosby that ties the game. Again, another late goal in the second period as Joel Farabee gets on the board with a goal. At least at that point in time, he'd already had 2 assists by that point. So you go into the intermission again with a 3-2 lead. And again, Pittsburgh ties it up, but you gain some momentum right back. You score 3 minutes later. That's, you know, and it's your fourth line that gets in on the action too. I think that really sets the tone as well when you have everybody contributing in the lineup top to bottom like that. I think that sets the tone to get you into a spot where you feel like you have a shot to score at any point in time during the game. You know, the fact that the fourth line went, and the fourth line was on the ice, by the way, against Sidney Crosby's line. So it tells you how effective they can be against another team's top line. They go down, they win a couple battles. You know, Michael Raffl creates the turnover in the defensive zone first. Scott Lawton gets it to move up the ice. He does a lot of the hard work there on John Marino to get around him and gets the puck to the front of the net, and then actually goes and chases after it, gets it himself, so wins another race because, again, you got defensemen out of the play. And he wins another race and gets to where he needs to be. So all in all, I thought completely across the board, you started to see the depth of this team. And that's a big thing moving forward as you get to the next game, because this is going to be an interesting dynamic. This is the first time we're seeing this season in this structure, a game against the same opponent 2 nights down the road, same building, feels like the playoffs to that extent, where it's just the beginning of a playoff series. And now I want to see how the response is from both sides. I want to see how the Flyers look in terms of a response to winning the first game and trying to build on it. And I want to see what the Pittsburgh Penguins do to push back as well, to come back and try to get the win for themselves, because that's the type of adversity the Flyers are going to have to face all year. There's going to be teams that when you play them the second time over are going to come out more determined the next time around. And sometimes that'll be the very next night. Sometimes it will be 2 nights down the road. It doesn't matter. You still need to be prepared for that game in the same way. So that's a couple of things that I want to see. And with that, let's turn things over and get into our goalie matchup for the night. And Carter Hart's going to be back in goal for the Flyers. That is confirmed. Pretty solid start to his season all in all. You know, the turnover to Crosby is one he wants to have back, and there's no taking away from that. He made a mistake there, and he knows it, and he was solid for the rest of the game as a result. The other 2 goals, I don't think he could have done much to stop. He made a lot of key saves in the first period when the Flyers were trailing. He made a lot of key saves in the second period once that game was tied, and he definitely made some saves, especially as the third period progressed in that little bit of a gap there of about 5 to 6 minutes where the Flyers had the 1-goal lead. I think that was when he was at his sharpest. He looked like he had fully adjusted to the game again and being back in a game setting, and he had looked as sharp as he was in the playoffs at times last season. So that's what I like to see from Carter Hart, and the numbers will get better as the year goes on and as the games start to pile up, because I don't think that was his best, but I definitely think that you started to see his best toward the end of that game as he was making some really key saves down the stretch. For the Penguins, not confirmed just yet, but Tristan Jarry in goal is expected. At least he's going to try to come in and bounce back from his game on Wednesday. That number at the bottom just doesn't look good, and it was certainly not all on him, the 6 goals allowed, but at the same time, he's going to look to improve that number. He wants to make more saves. He wants to try to get the Penguins into the win column, and this is something that Pittsburgh's going to have to deal with as the season goes on. He's their guy now, and they don't have a guy like Matt Murray waiting behind that you can go to and say that you probably feel like you have the same shot to win as you do when Jarry's in net. I think that you have to rely on him a lot, and he needs to go out there and prove that he can be the guy that's relied upon. I think that's the thing. So it won't be a surprise to see him back in goal trying to bounce back, and we'll see if that goes anywhere as the game progresses, and especially as the Flyers try to keep the pressure on, because they certainly started to find something that worked in their favor as the game went on, and they just kept getting a lot of traffic to the net. When you see how the first 2 goals scored on deflections, Farabee's goal is a play hard to the net. Every goal they scored was a play hard to the net, right? You know, Michael Raffles going to the net as a trailer on a rush. He scores. Oscar Lindblom's goal, which is another big story. Oscar Lindblom scoring in his first game back too, in Philadelphia at least. And he's in the crease the whole time. He's really the one who keeps the play alive. Does a nice job kicking the puck to keep it alive. Travis Konechny is the one who takes the shot, and we all thought it was his goal, but it does hit off the side of Lindblom's head, and that's him going hard to the net too. And even if it wasn't Lindblom's goal and it was Konechny's goal, that's still a hard play to the net. And then obviously Hayes scoring after that, going to the net as well, being in a position to pick up a rebound. That's what you need to see from this team. And that'll be the way they score, hopefully, a lot of their goals, because it'll be hard-nosed type goals. So that's what you definitely need to see. And Jarry needs to be kind of cognizant of the fact that there's going to be a lot of traffic around him, because that seems to be the method the Flyers want to use the most. Let's go to players to watch. And I have Joel Farabee for the Flyers. What a first game for him. What a first impression on this season. He scores a goal. He gets 3 assists, 2 on the power play, a 4-point game. And that doesn't mean that I expect him to be 4 points a night every single night. That's unrealistic. But I do think that he can be a positive player for this team, and he was on the line that's been most effective, not only in Wednesday's game, but was in the scrimmage on Sunday too. This is the line that looked most game ready in the scrimmage. They then showed it again by being the line on the team that generated the most. I thought, his line with Kevin Hayes and Claude Giroux was more active in the offensive zone than, say, Nolan Patrick's line with JVR and Jake Voracek, or even Sean Couturier's line with Lindblom and Konechny. I don't think that they were as effective in the offensive zone, especially early in the game. I thought early in the game, this was the group that kept it going, that got you some chances, that made it interesting and kept some of the pressure on, and then built on it as the game went on. They got the results. Farabee's goal at even strength was a goal for that line. He then set up the Hayes goal that was at the end of the scoring. That was an even strength goal, and obviously Farabee contributed on the power play too, so I'd like to see how he contributes on the power play side too, because I don't think that it means just because he got 2 points on the power play right away, same with Gustafsson, that it means that you have to change things around with where your power play units are. I think that it just works in good fortune that you get him out there as a second unit player with guys like Gustafsson, with JVR at the net front, with Patrick in the high slot like that, with Voracek on the other side. Like, that's a pretty hefty second unit. So I like him in that spot as well. And then for the Penguins, I'm going to look at Jake Gensel. There were a lot of top players for the Penguins that didn't get on the board. Crosby wouldn't have gotten on the board either if not for the turnover by Carter Hart, because the other goals were scored by the third line. That being said, I thought Crosby's line was good at generating some offense. I liked what he brought to the table. I liked what Gensel brought to the table as well. I thought that Gensel came close to scoring at least once for sure, maybe a couple of times. And I'm talking about a situation, it was not long after the Flyers took the lead in the third period where Gensel had a great opportunity and Carter Hart made a key save there to keep the Flyers in front. And then ultimately they built on that lead moving forward. I think Gensel's going to be around the net a lot. I think he's going to try to be more of a pest than he was in the first game. And I think that he's going to have potentially, we know he's got the scorer's touch sometimes, especially when you play with a guy like Sidney Crosby. So expect him to be around the net and expect him to be a guy who may try to capitalize on those chances even more if he gets as many as he did in the first game, because that line did not produce the way that they would have wanted to. And I think now they're going to try to by being much more effective and trying to take advantage of the opportunities that are there. And I think that Gensel's a guy who could finish on some of those, as we've seen before. So that is our game preview. Check back here after the game. Kyle Collington will have a post-game video for you. I'll be back with you before a back-to-back on home ice for the Flyers against the Buffalo Sabres. Starting on Monday, they play again on Tuesday as well. Before then, you can hear both Kyle and myself on a new episode of the YWT podcast debuting on Sunday night. Once again, be sure to subscribe to the YWT podcast on YouTube to get notified of all of our game preview and game recap videos. Be sure to follow along during tonight's game. I'll have coverage on Twitter at Kevin_Durso. Game updates are on Twitter over at Flyerdelphia. You can check out my game preview before the game and post-game recap and 5 takeaways over at sportstalkphilly.com and 97.3 ESPN.com after the game. So with that, enjoy the game, everyone, and we will see you next time for the next Flyers game preview.